Hi guys, Forgotten Wolf here, and this is What If Stannis Baratheon Wins at the Battle of Blackwater Bay in Season 2. Finally, I'm doing this one after many delays. But before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe, and let's begin. Let's go back in time a little bit. Doctor Strange to the Battle of Blackwater Bay in Season 2, where the Lannister army isn't able to arrive in time, or is just sitting there trying to negotiate with the Tyrells, and Stannis Baratheon takes King's Landing, winning the Battle of Blackwater Bay. This means that Tyrion, Cersei, and Tommen will definitely be dead. We know Cersei was poisoning Tommen before Tywin entered, and Stannis will capture Joffrey and behead him in front of the whole city, like what happened to Ned Stark, and he'll kill him as a usurper. And I do think that Ilyn Payne won't be able to do his job in time during the battle, meaning Stannis will have Sansa Stark hostage. For Tywin, this means the Tyrells pull out of the War of the Five Kings entirely and the Alliance, and the Dornish will very likely kill Myrcella because they hate the Lannisters. However, Jaime is still freed by Catelyn Stark, and Stannis Baratheon is crowned king, but I do think that Stannis will kill Varys before he gets a chance to leave King's Landing. I think Pycelle will also be killed as well. Now, on to Season 3 or 299 AC. I'm going to mention Littlefinger, as I think he will not die in the Battle of Blackwater Bay, as he was actually in Highgarden negotiating with the Tyrells since Tyrion and Tywin sent him. But then he'll probably make his way to marry Lysa Arryn at the Vale, but he's still dismissed from the small council by King Stannis. Meanwhile, for the Lannisters, I think Tywin's next goal will be to get Jaime back, as there is a very good chance Tywin will turn to battle Robb to defend the Westerlands, meaning he will he'll be going around the same path that Jaime took in the show after being freed by Catelyn. Meanwhile, Robb Stark, I think he'll end up bending the knee to Stannis Baratheon. But to ensure his loyalty, Sansa Stark will remain in King's Landing. Before Robb can go home, however, there is still the Lannister threat of Tywin and now Jaime, since they'll be reunited. And I'm still counting this as for the War of the Five Kings, so the next battle is between Stannis and Tywin. At the Battle of the Gold Road, Stannis would defeat Tywin, forcing him to go back to Castle Rock, which would become under siege as two sides, as probably a smaller battle is fought between Robb and Tywin's forces, but Tywin won't surrender, so the majority of, not the majority of it, but a significant portion of Season 3 is spent at the siege of Castle Rock, as Stannis and Robb will eventually take the castle and kill Tywin and Jaime, ending the War of the Five Kings. Stannis will also strip the Lannisters of Castle Rock, and after seeing the Lannisters fall, I think the Tyrells will officially bend the knee, even though they had Stannis. After Castle Rock is taken, I think Stannis gives the Westerlands to Davos, making him Lord of Castle Rock and making the Westerlands loyal to him. And Robb Stark will go back north, and the Red Wedding doesn't happen because the Freys don't have the Lannisters' backing since they're dead. And Robb Stark is going home now, and Stannis Baratheon is king in King's Landing. Now moving on to Season 4, 300 AC, I think that Stannis will give his daughter Shireen Baratheon Storm's End and make her stay at Storm's End to control the Stormlands. Meanwhile, for Robb Stark, he will reunite with Arya at the Twins, as the wedding between Edmure Tully and Rosalind Frey I do think still happens. And he will definitely pay the Hound very well. Robb Stark will then take Kaelin, then he will take Winterfell. And it's around this time that Robb Stark will have his heir and his son, baby Eddard, born. Then he will receive word of the situation at the Wall, and he will take his army north to the Wall while leaving Catelyn, Arya, Talisa, and baby Eddard at Winterfell. Robb takes Stannis' role at the Wall, and instead of burning Mance Rayder, will execute him. For the Hound, I don't know where he'll go after giving Arya back to the Starks. I'm just going to guess he goes over towards Daenerys Targaryen, and by the end of the season, he'll end up reaching Meereen. Moving back to Stannis, he'll punch the Tyrells in some way, but I don't think he will declare war against them, since he lost a fair amount of men at the Battle of Blackwater Bay. I do think that Stannis will declare war on Greyjoys for declaring independence. Stannis' forces will easily crush the and it is very likely that Stannis will kill Balon Greyjoy and Yara Greyjoy, since there's the only two Greyjoys there, while giving the Iron Islands to someone else. This leaves two members of House Greyjoy, one being Theon Greyjoy, who was almost certainly handed over by Ramsay Bolton and executed when Robb reclaims Winterfell. And for this action, I think Ramsay will be legitimized as a Bolton. And for Littlefinger, not much changes, but he doesn't kill Lysa's Aaron this early, as Sansa isn't in his possession. And now on to Season 5, or 301 AC. Littlefinger does need to take full control of the Vale during the season. I predict that Lysa Arryn will, by this point, probably give Littlefinger a son. And this will allow for Littlefinger to murder Lysa Arryn to finally take full control of the Vale. And for Robb Stark, I think he'll name Jon Snow Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. But when he gets back to Winterfell, he's set on finding his brother, since I think Theon will confess that he never killed Bran and Rickon. And he'll get Rickon back from House Umber, and when reuniting with Rickon, he will definitely reward Asha for keeping care of him, and they will learn from those two that Bran went north of the Wall with Hodor, Jojen, and Meera Reed. More on that later. In Dorne, Darren Martell will remain in charge, I think. While the Tyrells, I think that Larys will still hate Stannis, but there's nothing he can do about it. There is literally nothing. Stannis has got too much power. And it's a very peaceful time, but much of the realm is recovering, and in King's Landing it's mostly politics. I should also mention that with Robb and Stannis still alive, Jon Snow won't die in a mutiny at Castle Black. And in Season 6 of 302 AC, Littlefinger will start off with having Robb and Arryn killed, and this evidence comes from the books where, I know this is a show what if, but Littlefinger plans on killing Robb and Arryn. Plus, Littlefinger will want to make his own kid Lord of the Vale, not Robb and Arryn. This will make Littlefinger's son Lord of the Vale, with Littlefinger as regent. Littlefinger also has spies that will tell him Daenerys is coming for the kingdom eventually, so after killing Robb and Arryn, I think he'll offer Daenerys ships in exchange for Littlefinger being named Hand of the Queen, since Tyrion is dead. Daenerys will accept with no Tyrion and Varys to advise her, since they're both dead, rest in peace. Meanwhile, Stannis' reign already begins to go south as Euron Greyjoy returns home and claims the Iron Island for himself, taking it over and naming himself King of the Iron Islands. For Euron Greyjoy, he will likely wait for Daenerys to come, while also building up the Iron Fleet like in the actual show. For Stannis and King's Landing, they are all well aware of Daenerys coming by now, and I do think that Melisandre will probably leech Gendry by this point. And Gendry is with the Brotherhood, by the way, since that only happened after the Battle of Blackwater Bay. Yeah, but now Gendry will be free from the Brotherhood without banners. And and who will Melisandre name? It'll be Euron Greyjoy, Daenerys Targaryen, and I guess Littlefinger. Daenerys is kidnapped by the Dothraki, although she escapes eventually. Stannis is also researching ways to kill the White Walkers, as he will have definitely received word from Jon Snow and Samwell Tarly at the Night's Watch. And I do think that he will begin to order Dragonglass to be mined on Dragonstone. I should also mention that Stannis has been sending men that were loyal to the Lannisters to the Wall to help them out, giving them the choice of death or to take the Black. And moving back up north, Robb Stark will have probably sent a bunch of men in various groups to try and find Bran north of the Wall, but to no result, besides more and more White Walker attacks. Besides that, nothing much happens up north. And I should also mention that instead of Varys being Daenerys' envoy to Dorne and the Tyrells, I think it'll be Littlefinger or someone else. Either way, Daenerys gets the support of the regent Dorne. Now, moving on to Season 7 or 3 AC, the Scorpion will never be invented by Qyburn, who will have never gone to King's Landing with Jaime. Qyburn is probably serving as the Maester at Harrenhal, or he's dead. So Stannis will turn to blood magic, and I don't think that Stannis could produce another Shadow Baby. So this leaves him kind of screwed. And now I'm going to call this the Targaryen Revolution, or Daenerys' Conquest if you prefer a better name. But it's between Daenerys and Stannis. Obviously, I'll go over all their allies before the actual fighting in Season 7. Daenerys has the support of the Vale thanks to her Hand of the Queen Littlefinger, Dorne because they hate the Lannisters and love the Targaryens, and also having the support of the Reach / the Tyrells who hate Stannis. In addition, Euron Greyjoy offers his support while he would marry her, but Littlefinger wants himself to be king, so I think that Littlefinger would severely advise against this. Especially since Littlefinger probably has a fleet of his own, so he won't need more ships. So Euron likely goes to prove his loyalty by capturing a hostage like in the show. Meanwhile, to ensure Dorne's support, I think Doran Martell will send Oberyn to serve on Daenerys' small council, and Oberyn Martell is alive since Joffrey wasn't poisoned, and that means he wouldn't have fought in a trial by combat. And Stannis' Isle are the North, the Stormlands, and the Riverlands, and the Westerlands. Remember, the Westerlands are loyal to Stannis because Davos is Lord of Casterly Rock, although the Westerlands basically have no army since Stannis and Robb destroyed it. And the first battle of the Targaryen Revolution is the fall of Dragonstone, of course, to Daenerys Targaryen, and then it's the Battle of Storm's End, where the Unsullied are to take Storm's End while baiting Stannis out of King's Landing, while the Vale, Reach, and Dorne use this chance to surround the city on all three sides, causing it to fall. So it's basically the same scheme that Tyrion had in Season 7. The Unsullied takes Storm's End and Shireen Baratheon captive, but Stannis uses his fleet to surround the Unsullied, and then the second Battle of Storm's End takes Storm's End back and Princess Shireen back. But it also forces Grey Worm and the Unsullied to retreat into Dorne, and then use that opportunity to go back into Dragonstone. The next battle is the second Battle of the Trident between the Vale and Robb Stark. Stark crosses the Riverlands because he promises Arya to a Frey's son, or they just marry then and there. And in this battle, Robb Stark wins, making the Vale army retreat into the Vale. Meanwhile, Euron Greyjoy has got his captive, he will take Davos Seaworth captive as Lord of Casterly Rock, as Davos went to Casterly Rock to rally the banners. And Euron presents Davos to Daenerys, who has Drogon burn Davos alive, but Daenerys doesn't agree to marry Euron, instead choosing to reward him by giving him some lands and titles. I think Euron would accept this, and after this, I could see Daenerys either burning down King's Landing and taking the throne, or burning the Northern Army, and leading into Season 8. And if Scenario 1 happens, there is little chance that the White Walkers ever go south, because Daenerys will be in King's Landing. However, if Scenario 2 happens, I could see Stannis use this as a chance to declare a truce until they defeat the White Walkers, which will happen, and then eventually Daenerys takes King's Landing, and afterwards will probably end up marrying Loras Tyrell to ensure the Reach's support. And they will have one of the largest armies in Westeros, while in both scenarios, Littlefinger uses this opportunity to marry Sansa Stark, who is still hostage at King's Landing. And if you're wondering for Robb Stark what happens in Scenario 1, I think he maybe will bend the knee, or he'll eventually be captured and executed. And although that might seem like an anticlimactic ending, it's a real 50-50, I just can't tell. I'm more inclined to go Scenario 2, but I will leave it up to you guys. Let me know which scenario you think is more likely, Scenario 1 or Scenario 2. But if you want more content like this, at 100 subs, I'll do a 1-hour video on the FNAF Timeline, and at 600 likes, I'll do a video on the Doom of Valeria, and at 75k views, I'll do a video on the life of Jaime Lannister. But until next time, bye!